The gods are dead. The angels have been sealed, and Zeno, the king of everything, is nowhere to be seen. A grim reality for sure, but a reality that we could possibly see if Frieza, the emperor of the universe, plays his cards right. In this video, we'll be going over Frieza's mentality, potential, and the Zero God plan. And joining me today is a buddy of mine and a fellow YouTuber, Deverboy.
Hey guys, what's up? Let's tackle this crazy theory video.
As you know, Frieza is an extremely prideful person, someone who's never bowed down to anyone he's deemed weaker than him, and the only times he's ever willingly bent a knee to anyone is in front of characters like Beerus and the Omni King, but he never does so happily. From Frieza's forced interactions with Beerus to the look of annoyance he gives the Omni King. Regardless of who they are, his egotistical nature is the reason that he despises the idea of anyone being stronger than him. So much so that Frieza, a character that never trained a day in his life, went out of his way to attain the necessary strength to take on his foes. Goku, Vegeta, and Broly are characters that at points in the story have surpassed him, but as we've seen, it never stays that way for long. From his golden form to his newly acquired black form, these bastions of power are a product of Frieza's desire to answer to no one. That includes Beerus as well as Zeno. But besides this new power, the question is, how would he go about achieving this goal?
Frieza's potential. As you guys know, Frieza has crazy potential, and I mean crazy. My man goes from weaker than Namek level Super Saiyan to Super Saiyan Blue level in only 4 months. Then afterwards got stronger in Hell just because he was thinking of different ways to kill Goku. He's a real mutant, and right now he has trained for 10 years, one-tapping the peak power of Goku and Vegeta. So who knows how strong he is now and how strong he can still get.
After the events of the Granola Saga, Frieza sits upon his throne on Frieza Planet 1, and he'd ponder on his 10-year venture within the Time Chamber. Besides training himself half to death to acquire the power he has now, Frieza would have spent that time thinking of a way to usurp the gods for power. He knew that he was more than strong enough to outright kill some of them, but he wouldn't know what the repercussions would be. Besides that, he still had no answer to dethroning the king of everything. So many questions, but not enough answers. His thoughts would be interrupted as one of his henchmen asked about the new recruits. Oil and Maki, where do you want them? Frieza would brush off the question while still thinking of a way to achieve his goal, and in that moment he'd have a brilliant idea. You see, Frieza was aware of the Heater's antics throughout the Granola arc. He knew that Elec was attaining a great degree of knowledge and power in an attempt to overthrow him. So in hopes of learning something that could help him in his coup against the gods, Frieza would ask that Oil and Maki be brought to him for questioning. Once in his presence, Frieza wouldn't waste any time and he'd ask them about what they learned during their time working for Elec. And as Maki and Oil explained what they did throughout the entirety of the Granola arc, a few things would pique the Emperor's interest and he'd come up with a brilliant idea.
The Emperor would make his way to Zuno's planet, and once there he'd threaten his life and begin to question him. He'd start off by asking, is there a way to defeat Zeno? Zuno lets him know that it is impossible. This infuriates the tyrant, but he'd ask another question. Is there a way to stop Zeno? Zuno would stop to think, and he'd answer that there is a way, through the use of the Super Dragon Balls. This puts a smile on Frieza's face, and he'd begin to think of a wish that could sideline the king of everything. But before he could think of one, he'd remember that he still lacks a certain bit of information that could be vital to his plan. He'd ask Zuno about what happens when you kill a god of destruction. Zuno hesitates a bit and tells him that the Supreme Kai of that universe would also die due to the life link and that their angel would cease to function. During this interaction, Frieza would be intrigued by how this being knew so much about the universe, especially how he knew exactly what happens when a god is killed, and as a result he'd ask him, out of curiosity, how do you know all of this? Zuno, fearful of his life, tells Frieza about a Kai who tried to do what he's doing now, a man by the name of Zamasu. Frieza then asks about whatever happened to this Kai, and Zuno informs him on Zamasu's Zero Mortal plan and everything that played out within the Goku Black arc. Frieza would ponder on this information and chuckles a bit at the idea that killing the gods of destructions was a feat that had already been pulled off. So he had to kill all the Supreme Kai. What a weakling. I'll tear down the gods with my own hands, Frieza says. With all this information in hand, Frieza leaves Zuno's planet and returns to his planet. He began to conjure up a plan to take over the multiverse, but there was one thing that he needed before he could make this dream of his a reality, and one man, one god, put in his way. So for the time being, he continued to train to acquire the necessary strength in order to do what had to be done.
Age 785, 1 year after the end of Z. Bulma sits outside of her house trying to get in contact with Whis. She had a question pertaining to one of her experiments, specifically about a certain material and exactly where it could be found in Universe 7. However, the angel never picks up. Bulma ignores it and decides to try again another day, as this wouldn't be the first time that Whis missed her calls. As the weeks passed, Bulma called Whis over and over again, but still, there was no answer. She'd bring this up to Vegeta, asking him when's the last time he went to Beerus' planet. The prince puts his daughter aside and tells Bulma that it's been some time. She would then inform Vegeta about how she hasn't been able to get a hold of Whis this past month, and that it's strange for the angel not to return her calls after so long. This piques Vegeta's interest and he decided to go check in on Whis. He gets in contact with Goku, who's been training with Oob for the past year, and informs him on what Bulma told him. In turn, Goku stops his training and both of the Saiyans try to use their instant transmission in order to sense Whis and Beerus' ki, but there was nothing. Maybe they're out of universe or something. I'm sure we'll hear from them when they get back, Goku says. But Vegeta, believing that it was far worse, thinks of a way to get to Beerus' planet without the use of instant transmission, and the Dragon Balls come to mind. So with the use of the Dragon Radar, Vegeta collects all the Dragon Balls and gets in contact with Goku again, and tells him that they should travel to Beerus' planet as he believes that something isn't right. Goku agrees, and with one wish from Shenron, the Saiyans get teleported to the God's planet. Once there, they'd notice how quiet the planet was. They could feel an ominous presence within the air. They'd call out for Whis and Beerus as they walked around the planet, but they wouldn't find them. That is until Goku finds Whis' staff, eerily floating all by itself. The Saiyans inspect the staff as they exchange their thoughts on how strange it was for Whis not to have his staff, as it was something that the angel never did. The staff began to glow and it would project a recording of a battle. As Goku and Vegeta watched, they realized that it was Beerus who was fighting and from the looks of it, losing. Frieza's voice boomed through the recording as he comes into view. And to think that I, Frieza, once bowed before the likes of you. Well, no more, Frieza says. Do you plan on taking the mantle of God of Destruction? Don't make me laugh, Beerus says. The tyrant began to laugh hysterically. I have no use for such a title. What I seek is far more superlative, Frieza says. I see. Well then, if your goals are what I think they are, then you're nothing more than a reckless fool, Beerus says in a far more menacing tone, and the god unleashes his full power. Frieza cracks a smile, and the Emperor sheds his golden form as a violent black ki emerges. An intense battle breaks out between the two warriors. The Saiyans watch with bated breath as the fight raged on, and as the battle came to an end, they could see Black Frieza landing a devastating blow against Beerus, seemingly killing him. The tyrant tossed the deity aside, and the recording suddenly stopped. The two Saiyans stood in awe at what they had just witnessed, and Vegeta's anger began to rise. I told you we should have killed that bastard, you fool! Now look at what you've done! Vegeta yelled at Goku. Goku calms the prince down, telling him that he's right, but now isn't the time to argue. He then began to walk in the direction of where the battle took place. Come on, Goku says, and the two Saiyans venture out into the outskirts of Beerus' planet, searching for Beerus and Whis. After a couple of minutes of searching, the Saiyans would discover a frightening discovery. Beerus' skeleton laid out in the middle of a forest. This is bad. If Beerus' body is already in this state, there's no telling how long he's been dead, Vegeta says, inspecting the deity's remains. Which means there's no telling how long Frieza's been up to his old tricks, Goku says. The Saiyan would then try to use instant transmission to get a lock on Frieza, but no matter how hard he searched, he couldn't find the Emperor. I think I know of a way to find out what happened, Vegeta says, and the two warriors make their way to Beerus' tree. They'd search high and low and eventually find who they were looking for, the Oracle Fish. The fish tells them about everything that had unfolded on the planet, and about how he hid away in fear of his life. What is Frieza after? Where is he? Vegeta demanded to know. The Oracle Fish regrettably informs him that he doesn't know the answer to either of those questions, but what he does know is that Frieza took the God Cube. What would Frieza need the God Cube for? Goku asks himself. Vegeta ponders on the question and he immediately starts to realize what the tyrant was up to. Samasu's zero mortal plan, Vegeta says. Goku gives the prince a confused look and puts two and two together and catches on. He plans on killing the gods, Goku yells out. Once they figure this out, Vegeta asks the Oracle Fish if there was another way to traverse the universes, but to his surprise, the Oracle Fish was fast asleep, and he could hear him muttering something under his breath. The Saiyans listen closely and hear, there will be a new ruler amongst the universes.
After the defeat of Beerus, Frieza searched his planet high and low, until he found the God Cube. He at first thinks to immediately jump to another universe, but another idea comes to mind. In his absence, he'd need someone to enforce his rule in Universe 7, someone who was obedient and extremely strong. The tyrant would scour his mind trying to think of someone like that, but no one in particular came close. That was until we recalled Oyo and Maki's time with the heaters. Frieza cracks a smile and immediately takes off for Alex's planet. Once there, he'd forged through the heater's treasure. Most of it had been pillaged, but he knew what he was looking for was hidden. So, as he looked, he'd find something interesting. That something being Jaco, who was on a mission to recover 7-3 for the Galactic Patrol. Frieza, Lord Frieza, how can I be so fallacious? What brings you here? Frieza starts smirking. Oh, how delightful. Another pest trying to thwart my plans? I suppose I should be honored. Surrender now and things will end swiftly. After a little back and forth between the two, Jaco comes with a plan that might help him out. Look, Frieza, I don't surrender. I only bargain. You see, my great power isn't a joke, and I hate working for the Galactic Patrol. I only came here to steal some goods. I'm no good guy. I just work for the biggest power. But now that you're here, it would be an honor to work for you, oh great Frieza. Very well. I'll give you a chance to entertain me. Show me what this Galactic Patrol is capable of. After some time, the Emperor would stumble onto 7-3's body, fully recovered, but still unconscious. Frieza could sense how strong he was, but it wasn't enough, especially for those Saiyans. So, as a result, the Emperor would hunt down 7-3's creators, and demand that they make the android into something befitting of Frieza's right-hand man in this universe. Seeing as they couldn't refuse, they'd agree to make the Emperor's wish a reality, but it would take some time. Now, with the backing of the Frieza Force, these scientists would power all their time and resources into this project. While the android was being enhanced, Frieza takes off for another universe. In Universe 9, Sidra crashed into the ground below. The god quickly recovered, trying his best to keep up with the Emperor, but it was no good. He was too fast, too strong. Frieza lands a devastating blow on the god, almost killing him, and he prepares a death beam to finish him off. Any last words? Frieza asks, and Sidra, in an attempt to save his own life, proposes the idea of becoming Frieza's right-hand man in Universe 9, something akin to a general. The Emperor would be caught off guard by this, as he never thought about having a god of destruction as a lackey. The idea gives the Emperor a laugh, and after some consideration he agrees. Now with a general in Universe 9, as well as one being created in Universe 7, Frieza would continue his plan by going to each and every universe. There he would slay the gods, neutralize the angels, and appoint a general. Universe 1, 5, 8, and 12 saw the rise of powerful warriors not yet known. As for the rest of the universes, a corrupted Yardred from Universe 2, whose ability intrigued the Emperor, Pisa, the ultimate robot created by the greatest minds from Universe 3, a newly enhanced 7-3 from Universe 7, whose powers far exceeded the likes of Granola and Gas, Sidra, the god of destruction from Universe 9, Universe 10's strongest warrior and Frieza's most trusted soldier, a man by the name of Jaco the Great, and last but not least, a mysterious warrior from Universe 11, the man who killed Jiren's parents.
Frieza would see the completion of one of his generals, Pisa, but he wasn't there to greet the machine as he came to life. Now with a majority of the gods dead, Frieza would start to make preparations to deal with his greatest obstacle, the king of everything, and he'd need a Super Dragon Ball radar to achieve such a feat. So with the Dragon Ball radar that Frieza managed to steal from Bulma in the Broly movie, as well as the great minds of the scientists from Universe 2, he'd have the Super Dragon Ball radar created, and once he had it, he'd make his way to Universe 6. Once there, the tyrant wouldn't hesitate in killing Champa and neutralizing Vados. With those two out of the way, he started to look for a general, and he set his sights on Frost. The only problem was no one knew where he was. The tyrant would go planet to planet asking for the whereabouts of the Frost Demon, but no matter how hard he asked around, he couldn't get a lead. That wasn't until the Emperor found a tavern on a desolate planet filled to the brim with mercenaries, bounty hunters, and criminals. When he asked for the whereabouts of the Frost Demon, nobody could give him an answer. And why exactly do you need Frost? The man's a coward, one of the mercenaries says, and Frieza tells him that he's looking for someone strong that can take orders. If you're looking for someone strong, hunt down Anya, the mercenary says out loud. The entire tavern burst out into laughter, and the Emperor continues to stare at the man. How strong? Frieza asks, and everyone within the tavern laughs even harder. What? Don't tell me you have a death wish, the mercenary says through his laughter, and the Emperor continued to stare daggers at the man. You don't get it, do you? Anyo isn't your typical Saiyan. He isn't exactly what you call a hero. I mean, King Sadala banished him for a reason, but if you're looking for someone strong, then you should pay him a visit, the mercenary says laughing. The Emperor would ask about the whereabouts of this warrior, and once the mercenary realizes that Frieza was serious, he gives him the coordinate to a planet on the edge of the universe. Giving you a heads up, Anyo don't take too kindly to orders, the mercenary says as Frieza departs. At the edge of the universe, Frieza arrives at the coordinates he was given, and he finds a lonely planet. When he touches down, he travels to the nearest city. On his way there, he noticed that the planet had been through hell. Charred wastelands as far as the eye can see, accompanied by countless metal debris scattered everywhere. And as he continued towards the city, he noticed a number of large robotic structures that were utterly destroyed. Once he arrives in the city, he'd be surprised to see that there wasn't a person in sight. Instead, he'd see nothing but robots bustling around. Interesting, he thinks, as he observes the robots go about their day. From what he can tell, this entire city functioned without faults, and he began to wonder what exactly was going on here. He lands and immediately asks one of the robots where he could find Anyo. If you wish to see Lord Anyo, follow me, the robot says as it heads towards a large building in the center of the city. Frieza walks in and sees a man sitting upon a throne. It's not too often that I get visitors. Most people try their best to avoid me, and for good reason. You're either strong or crazy, or both. Tell me, what brings you here? Anyo says as he smiles from ear to ear. Frieza would tell Anyo about how he's looking for a right-hand man in this universe. Anyo begins to laugh. A right-hand man? To you? And why exactly would I do that? Anyo says. Frieza then tells the Saiyan about how he wanted to rule over Universe 6. This catches Anyo's interest and he smiles. What if I say no? Anyo asks, chuckling at the Emperor. No problem, Frieza says, and his ki erupts, engulfing Anyo's entire throne room. The Saiyan begins to sweat, realizing that Frieza's request was serious. Fine, I'll be your general, Anyo says. Good, Frieza says. He then asks his Saiyan where he could find Frost, as he still needed a general for Universe 4. With Anyo's coordinates, he makes his way to where Frost was hiding and he confronts the Frost Demon. Frost would be on edge, telling the Emperor that he doesn't trust him after what he did during the Tournament of Power. That is our nature. We backstab. I was teaching you a lesson, Frieza says. Frost gives the Emperor an untrusting look. I could give you the universe, somewhere where you could rule over all of its inhabitants. Isn't that what you wanted? No more cowering and fear. I can make you one of the universe's strongest warriors if you come with me, Frieza says as he erupts into his golden form. Strength like this, Frieza says with a smile. The Emperor extends out his hand and Frost hesitates. But after going over how his life has been for the past couple of years, Frost finally agrees and he takes the Emperor's hands. With all his generals accounted for, Frieza would finally go about collecting the Super Dragon Balls. With the use of the God Cube and the Super Dragon Ball radar, he'd collect the wish orbs in no time and he'd make his wish with the aid of General Sidra to translate. Shenron, I wish for the King of Everything to enter an eternal slumber, Frieza says with a smile. Back over with our heroes, Goku and Vegeta train, pushing their limits as they knew that Frieza would eventually be back. As the warriors traded ferocious blows, their training session would be interrupted by the arrival of a God Cube. Tensions run high as Vegeta and Goku remember what the Oracle Fish said. They tried their hardest to sense Frieza's ki, but there was nothing. Goku and Vegeta unleashed their power, tapping into MUI and UE. Show yourself, Frieza, Vegeta yelled out. The cube opens and a man emerges, battered, bloodied, and bruised. It was Hits. The assassin looks to our warriors pleading for their help, and he'd collapse.
After you guys heard this theory/story, you might have some questions, and I'm here to answer them. Why would the Super Dragon Balls be able to do anything to Zeno? The reason we think that this could be the case is because the Super Dragon Balls are the only thing that we know of that has overrode something Zeno did. For example, the universe that were erased. Usually it is said that when Zeno erases something, it is gone for good, but the Super Dragon Balls were able to bring it back. How does Zuno know about Zamasu even though it occurred at a different timeline? He's all-knowing. And that would mean that it encompasses everything, including different timelines, or else he wouldn't be all-knowing. But you might think it's just the title, but from what we've seen, for example him knowing Bulma's breast size, it shows that he just knows things and isn't just knowledgeable. He doesn't seem to have a limit and he seems like an actual plot device that the writers use. Why isn't Goku and Vegeta training at Beerus' planet? If you pay attention at the end of Z, Vegeta seems very relaxed and chilled down. He's slowly becoming more of a family man throughout Z, and even more throughout Super. So it's safe to say that after the events of Super, he wants to spend more time with his family. But that doesn't mean that he stopped training. It just means that he isn't gone for months at a time training with Whis. As for Goku, we all know that at the end of Z, he picked Oob to train with. So I guess that's another reason as to why Vegeta isn't in a hurry, because it's not like Goku is training at Beerus' planet. Why wouldn't Whis or the other angels not report to the Grand Priest? If Goku Black was able to do it, then sure as hell Black Frieza can. And it is known that angels cease to function after God of Destruction dies, but what they mean by that exactly, I wouldn't be able to tell you. But it's to a point where they can't or don't even mention it to the Grand Priest. Why would Frieza not get the Super Dragon Balls first? He needs the cube, and in order to get the cube, he needs to go through Beerus, and that would be the perfect time to start his plan of killing the gods.
And with that, this puts an end to this video. I want to give a special shout out to Deverboy, as this video topic was his idea. And if you guys want to see more great Dragon Ball content, then you guys should check him out. He covers topics like One Piece, One Punch Man, and of course Dragon Ball. He has a plethora of great videos to choose from and has more on the way. So don't be afraid to stop by his channel and say hi. Anyways, thank you to everyone that watched this video. I hope you have a great day. Peace, deuce.